Hi everyone, welcome to Pokemon Draft League 300. This is going to be the start of the 300 level series where we're going to be talking about team building. So, as a disclaimer, this is done in the lens of Generation 9. I am not going to be claiming to be the best Draft League player or Pokemon player, but all the information and advice is sourced from my own experience, as well as watching some other more experienced players and channels and their thought processes. This series assumes that you have a roster, a list of 10 to 12 Pokemon that you have ready, and you have an opponent scheduled with their roster ready. And finally, hopefully you have a good understanding of competitive Pokemon and roles as you get into this. If you don't, then you can go to the 200 level videos to learn more. So I wanted to start off by just explaining why does this matter? And to do so, I wanted to explain it using Play-Doh and blocks. So hopefully all of you are familiar with those children toys where you have these wooden blocks and you have these boxes with shaped holes and then you go like it goes in the square hole. Now, let's imagine that you have a bunch of different Play-Doh blocks, and every single week you're going to be given a different shaped hole. Sometimes it's weird. You don't know exactly what this size or the shape of the hole will be, but you can get a pretty good idea. And your goal is to try to have the Play-Doh just fit into the hole like the best that I can. Now, there's two different ways that you could go about this. The first way is to just get all of the pieces of Play-Doh you have, just kind of smush them, your favorites together, and then when you see the shape of the hole, you just kind of take it and you just kind of like jam it in there and kind of brute force it. Now, this is going to be pretty easy on the prep side. You just kind of have to put it together, but when it actually comes to the execution, you're gonna find yourself having more trouble. Ultimately, you're trying to push the shape of your Play-Doh into a hole that it was never meant to fit. What would be a better strategy is to take the Play-Doh and use it how it's meant to be used. It's meant to be molded and change its shape. You can try to put it into weird, unconventional ways if you can expect the shape of the hole to be weird and unconventional as well. Um, Hopefully, all of these still kind of synergize with the other pieces of Play-Doh, and hopefully, when the hole comes, you'll have a much easier time just making it fit into the hole. Translating this to Pokemon, the block-shaped hole is how you're going to beat your opponent. The blocks of Play-Doh you have are your Pokemon. I've seen players who treat every single week with their Pokemon as just blocks of Play-Doh. They come into every battle with the exact same Pokemon as the previous week. They have the exact same EV spreads and the exact same moves, and they expect it to just work out every time. Um, and sometimes that just happens to be a good matchup. And there are popular sets in Pokemon for a reason. There's strengths and weaknesses for every single Pokemon. But what's different about draft is that you can know exactly what to prep for. And especially on your opponent's end, they know what to prep on your end as well. If you bring the exact same Pokemon every time, you're giving them an extremely easy time to just build the perfect team to beat you. Um, the best way to treat your draft games is to see your Pokemon as blocks that can be molded. They learn more than four moves for a reason. There are more than one viable item that can be run or different abilities. You can run every Pokemon in more than one way most of the time. And the general point I want to recommend to you is that you can tailor your selected Pokemon and the build of your Pokemon to your opponent and what you expect them to bring. Some more thoughts I wanted to give is that good Pokemon in draft are not necessarily good because they do one thing really well, but because they can do multiple things pretty well or exceptionally well. The biggest example of this is Dragapult, which many people regard to as the best draft league Pokemon, not because it hits extremely hard or because it has light screen or reflect, but it's due to not only its extremely fast speed, but the combination of so many different options it can run. It can run Choice Fan, it can run Choice Specs, it can run dual screens, it can give spread burn or paralysis that it pairs exceptionally well with stab hacks. It can be an amazing pivot because it's so fast. Um, it's the combination of all of these that allows you to run so many different things, and your opponent might not know what you're going to bring at all. Another example is Whimsicott. Um, Whimsicott is a pretty good draft league Pokemon, not because it can just run screens, um, but because it's a fairy type. It can run Stab Moonblast. It can run Choice Specs Moonblast. It can set up screens. It also has Prankster Encore to set up any setup Pokemon that isn't a dark type. And it can also run Trick with those choice specs that I mentioned earlier. So lots of versatility, lots of different ways it can just kind of mold itself into what you need. I also recommend you to not sleep on low value Pokemon. Uh, there are many weeks that can come up where the value of that Pokemon that you have and the utility it provides is just what you need for that specific moment. Like I said before, the benefits of running with this mindset, one is that you can run specifically for an opponent. You're going to make sure you're not wasting any move slots. And on the other end, as the weeks go on, and your opponent is prepping for you, they may not know what to expect for you, or they may see you run multiple different types of sets. So they have to prep for multiple different types of sets. So that means whatever you actually bring, they have less resources to counter that specific strategy. Mindset I want to put everyone in as you guys do this comes down to something called vision casting. Vision casting is a fancy way of just answering the question of what's your goal? um, what's your goal that you have in mind in order to win? It's important in this case to think about what I call a win condition, which just answers the question, what is the most reliable way for you to win? Do you have an extremely powerful offensive Pokemon that just kind of destroys your opponent's roster no matter what they bring? Do you have an extremely tanky Pokemon that your opponent has no way to actually break through? You can also think about what you actually need to happen in the battle to set yourself up for this. Maybe you have a super offensive Pokemon, but one of the Pokemon that your opponent could bring needs to be at 50% or lower. Maybe you have an extremely powerful tank, but you need to get rid of a Pokemon on the other side completely before they have no answers. It's through like vision casting that you can actually start to structure what the best Pokemon in the sets are to bring week by week. And as to the nuance, battles don't always go to vision cast. We can't perfectly predict what your opponent's going to bring. Um, so the win condition might change in the middle of the game. It's up to you as a coach to try to determine what that win condition is when it changes and what you should be aiming for. To vision cast, the best way to do that is to understand the capabilities of both of your rosters. You can't really know the best way to win if you don't know any ways to win. And the ways to know how you're going to win is to know all of the possible options that you have with your Pokemon, all the possible moves that they have, how they synergize with each other. It's also important to know the capabilities of your opponent's roster, see where their strengths lies, what weaknesses they may have, no matter what Pokemon they bring. The point is that you don't want to be showing up to a match and finding out, like, oh, wait, Annihilate gets this move that gets like 300 base power after I keep spamming U-turn on it over and over. Um, so the point is to have a good strategy from the list of options that you have. And that's done best with a good roster. I'm not going to define what that means, but if you are interested, you can watch my 200 level videos. So I have two examples here of potential vision casts from previous years, or I guess it would be last year. I reached out to all of these coaches. They said they were okay with me showing these in this video, but let's go through this. So on one side, we have Lucas, and on our side here, we have Matthew. So Matthew has a lot of very strong Pokemon in his roster. I didn't have a photo of it, but um, what he ended up doing throughout the season is he just chose the seven strongest Pokemon in his roster. He liked to run different sets, but a common thread you can actually see here is I want you to look at Landorus, the ground type strong Pokemon, and I want you to look at the rest of his team. and we'll see that playing out as the match goes on. I'll move this to fast. We're gonna skip forward a couple turns. Volcanion takes some chip, goes to Raging Bolt. Volcanion is gonna go down here, but not before getting a strong Earth power here. It gets KO'd, but now Landers comes in. Earthquake does over 50%, um, and knocks out Backscouter. Earthquake knocks out Galarian Slowking. Earthquake knocks out Cinderace. This is clearly a Choice Scarf Landorus. Knocks out Raging Bolt. And King Gambit just barely lives, but at this point, the damage has already been done. Um, Iron Juggless can just come in and get a knockout. So the vision cast here was very clear for Lucas, I think. Just click Earthquake with Landorus. Let's go to the second example I have. So this match is against Lucas still, the winner of the last video, versus Mayank, who was another coach from last year. He's actually in the 2025 draft too. Um, Mayank is a player who, up to this point, if you see a Pokemon, you likely knew what set it was going to bring. And we actually see Lucas play out to these strengths as well. So just right off the bat, Lucas ends up bringing this Brick Break for the Grimmsnarl, knowing that uh, Grimmsnarl likely wants to come out and set up Light Screen and Reflect. Um, he uses Landorus to counter this Excadrill, even though Excadrill runs Brick Break as well. Landorus has a Rocky Helmet, so this is a great example of Lucas using his Landorus Therium like Play-Doh, not just running Choice Scarf every single week, but whatever the match calls for. We can actually see it paying off here as Excadrill uses Rapid Spin. It dies to Rocky Helmet, and rocks end up staying up because of it. Some other kind of play is using Diancie, not before getting off a Giga Drain though, which does some pretty big damage. That's actually going to come into play later. We're going to skip forward a couple. Volcanion does a great job of walling Azumarill as taunt to stop setup Roaring Moon. And from here, Iron Bundle is actually Choice Scarfed revealed to knock out this Roaring Moon. So now, I guess as a spoiler, I helped Mayank this week in his prep. His Grimmsnarl does not have any moves that do damage. So he has one Pokemon left, his Latios. Um, I'll just let this play out. Ice Beam procs, weakness policy, Latios gets an agility. Aura Sphere knocks out Iron Bundle, Stored Power knocks out Diancie. Ice Beam knocks out Iron Jugulis, Stored Power knocks out Volcanion, Aura Sphere knocks out Archaladon. So, even though it seemed like things were going Lucas's way at the start, Mayank's win condition was this weakness policy Latios. With these three specific moves, Sword Power, Ice Beam, Aura Sphere, it knocked out every single Pokemon, no matter what he could have brought. I guess I would have to double check, but at the very least, Sword Power knocks out every single Pokemon here, except for Iron Jugulis, which can be knocked out with Ice Beam, and Archaladon, which can be knocked out with Aura Sphere. So I think that's a very powerful version of a win condition. The last tool I want to show here is the Pokemon Damage Calculator. This is going to be in like our doc that we're going to talk about later, as well as just like our master doc. This can be a very powerful tool when you team build. There is a lot here, but all you need to know is that you can type in Pokemon here. I can type in like Latios. It gives you a lot of popular sets. And you can actually tweak the numbers here. These are the EVs, as well as the nature, ability, items, stuff like that. You can set up different conditions here, or if there's Stealth Rock. You can see how much damage every single move does. So if we put in like Iron Bundle, uh, it was a Choice Scarf. And we can actually see that for the +2 speed that he was able to get from agility, we'll put a weakness policy. Latios actually reaches a speed stat of 700, which is way faster than Choice Scarf Iron Bundle. Um, that was something that was able to be identified. And if you just put +2 in every single offensive stat here, you can see that stored power does 200% minimum to a no defense iron bundle here, which is more than enough to take it out. Um, this is something I workshopped with my hunk during that match, or prior to that match, in his prep and figure out what the best moves to put on his Latios were. All right. The final thing I wanted to share was this resource doc. Um, This is going to be linked on every 300 level video. It has relevant links to different topics based on what it was, as well as the slides to the presentation. The thing I wanted to point out here is the team builder link that's bolded in this middle. That is a lot of like actual application from this coach called John Jr. He walks through this entire process of identifying threats on his end, identifying threats on his opponent's end, and then explaining why he actually brought every single one. So that's everything I have for the 300 level video. I guess vision casting for the future videos. The 301 videos are going to kind of go a bit further into what your mindset should be when you're planning. It's going to talk about reactive versus proactive team building and how to just manage an early game that you have. The 302 video is a lot more concrete. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the Pokemon damage calculator. Uh, you should be expected to have your Pokemon rules in mind. And the question is just how do you reflect that in your Eevee spreads? And finally, in the 303 video, it's just kind of be like an extra video. We're going to be talking about mock battles, how to perform them, as well as just other thoughts while you're team building. So that's everything I have for this video, and good luck with your building.